Welcome to the JC Sports Note on YouTube for Friday, September the 9th. And today we're actually going to go a little off the board. We're actually going to talk about something that normally doesn't get brought up on the channel, but it's definitely something that needs to be covered. If anyone's been following ESPN or CBS Sports, there's a story that actually came out of BYU about 2 weeks ago. Maybe not even, a little over 2 weeks, a little under 2 weeks ago, involving women's volleyball of all things. It was a match between, at that time, number 10th ranked BYU and Duke. Women's volleyball certainly not one of the sports that Duke excels in, but again, BYU, a very good team in the women's rankings. I don't know if they front a men's team, to be honest, but there was an allegation made by Duke sophomore Rachel Richardson, who is black, that racial slurs were hurled her way multiple times during the game coming from the student section there at BYU. There was also a report that Richardson's godmother, who was in attendance, also heard it every time that Richardson served. Now, BYU ended up losing the match 3-1, which was certainly expected. Turns out I don't want to say turns out, but what it also was reported that came out earlier today, that BYU launched an investigation into the incident and found and what they called an extensive review, and found no evidence of this. You might think that this is actually going to be this is going to be a Christian school with a predominantly white, not only fan base, but also enrollment, and also with their roster. As a matter of fact, BYU only has 2 minority players on their roster, one Polynesian, one Asian, whereas Duke actually on their roster has 5. I want to say they have as many as 8. They've got 4 black players on their roster. They have they have 2 Asians and a Polynesian, and I believe there might be and also a Latina. I apologize. Which is a good number of their roster. The thing is though, Richardson is the only one of those 4 black players who dressed for the game, because the other 3 are either freshmen or redshirt freshmen, and probably won't actually see much action until next year. But this is certainly not a look that you want to see. Really, I mean, are we really still in 2022? And this is an issue in college sports, of all things. It definitely should not be the case at with juniors or high school, regard whether you're talking about the United States or Canada. It definitely should not be an issue with Pee-wee or with kids. The fact that it's even an issue at all anymore is absolutely ridiculous, sad, and quite honestly pathetic. For BYU to conduct this investigation and find no evidence, you might be a little bit skeptical of this, but what they reported is that they interviewed or spoke with upwards of 50 people who were in that area of the arena, and they not only took videos, they took camera phone footage, and then BYU has its own exclusive TV network, which you actually can find on Pluto, Roku, most cable providers. It's kind of like what Texas does with the Longhorn Network, or Longhorn Sports, or whatever they call it. I'm not a Texas fan, I don't care. But BYU actually has their exclusive, and then what they did is they took the TV broadcast audio out and played the majority of it, of the match back, especially the areas where Richardson was serving, where the accusation were, and they could not find any evidence of this. Now, that's not to say that that did not happen. Who's to say that this is actually something with 5,000 people in that arena? Because again, BYU, 10th in the nation, going to draw a little bit more, and they are, they are a predominant college. They are a predominant college program out there. Whether it was Mountain West, now with basketball they play in the WAC. It's definitely something where they're going to actually pull a little bit of a draw, and really anytime Duke makes the trip, it's there's certain people who actually, because Duke actually has a very good following regardless of what sport it's in. I only follow Duke men's basketball out of respect for my grandfather. I believe I've told that story on a Wise Guy show with myself and Mike once, how I actually went from North Carolina over to the dark side and never kind of looked back, and it's coming up on 20 years now. But that's not to actually say that the incident didn't occur. Who's to say, though, it did not occur in another portion of the arena to where it may be kind of echoed, or I don't want to say like a voice gets thrown, but you think that you hear things. If anyone who lives in an apartment, you can understand this just as well as I can with this example. You hear, banging on, from the people directly above you, assuming you're not living on the top floor. Well, it may not necessarily be the people above you. As a matter of fact, it could actually be the people on the side of them, or it could even be across the hall with the way that vibration and sound carries through the walls, especially if the walls are hollow. You've got a 5,000 seat arena with lots and lots of open space. Who's to say that didn't actually echo from somewhere else in the building? So for BYU to consider the matter closed, good on them for not finding the evidence and doing the search, but the problem is the sample size appears to be too small. If they actually had spread it out, and you're probably not going to get 5,000 pieces of evidence for for something of this nature, and I'm certainly not trying to diminish what occurred and what Richardson is alleging. But again, it is certainly something where, had BYU maybe expanded the net a little bit wider, gotten several sections, maybe gotten something in the vicinity of where BYU was, because it could be something that they could be changing sides periodically. So who's to say that it didn't actually occur on another side of the arena when the team switched sides after each game? Kind of like what happens in tennis. So for them to consider this matter closed, again, good on them for the investigation, bad on them for not casting a wider net. But the fallout of this is, we also saw that the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball program decided to cancel a home-and-home series against BYU starting actually in the next few weeks once the college basketball season starts getting going. And yeah, I can't believe we're saying that, is that we got college basketball on the horizon, which very, very welcome here, because it actually means that everyone's going to start watching the calendar and hoping that the winter goes really quick so we can actually get towards conference tournaments and March Madness. But for Dawn Staley, the head coach, to consider the matter closed, I can absolutely understand that out of respect to her players, as the South Carolina the women's basketball program is predominantly made up of African American players. But it especially also South Carolina coming off a national championship back in the first part of April, to where, yeah, they are going to travel very well, but if they're actually heading out to Utah, it's certainly something where Utah certainly is not going to win that game, but you're going to be having their fans, look for a pound of flesh wherever they can get it. Being with South Carolina more than likely going to be the number one team in the nation by the time that game would roll around, and who's to say that South Carolina doesn't potentially have the potential to repeat for 2023, especially now with the report that All-American Paige Buchers is going to miss the entire season for UConn. But I do think that Staley may have jumped the gun a little bit, because BYU even asked South Carolina to potentially reconsider this and let them kind of finish their investigation, or get a little bit more information. And there's still a possibility that the series could be back on, but just probably not in time for the opening of the 2022-23 season. You could actually see this go to 23 if for the opening of the 2023 season, and possibly 2024. But let's actually see what happens with this. And I do appreciate hearing that the BYU athletic director, Tom Homo, did actually reach out and have a face-to-face interaction with Richardson after the incident occurred, because Duke did not fly back to Durham until the following day, regarding the incident. And they've also started addressing where the student section is in proximity to the playing field in regards to volleyball and everything. It was addressed immediately. Let's actually see what happens with BYU going forward here with this, and also especially if this also has a ripple effect for some of the other as other fall sports start getting going. We're getting going. This was only, I believe, the second game of the year for BYU's volleyball squad. I think it might have been Duke's second or third themselves. So again, just very, very early on, and let's see how this translates to basketball, certainly volleyball. The players usually are not, the fans are usually not right on top of the players with most college football, especially with Division I programs like this. Division II, typically smaller stadiums, and you're certainly going to be able to hear things a little bit more prominently in your Division I AA, your Division II, Division III, Division IV. But let's hopefully this can actually start being some sweeping change, although for all the wrong reasons here. And again, I can't believe we are in 2022 and we are still talking about this. I'm sorry if you're in the minority against this conversation, grow up. So let me know what you guys think. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. You can comment on this. There also will be a Wise Guys show. Tomorrow night we will be going live on this very channel. We also will be going live on my Twitch channel, which means, as we all know, it's going to be for mature audiences. All filters are going to be off. It's going to be our last show, more than likely, prior to the 1-year anniversary show of the Wise Guys. So we're gonna be talking a little bit of the we're gonna extend the conversation from last week. And if you guys saw the Ohio State Notre Dame preview that we did over on Mike's channel with our friend Willie from the Shakeback Media Group, we're going to expand on that, and Mike and I are going to be able to tear into that a little bit more, because we had to cut our discussion a little bit shorter. Not only did Willie have to leave, but we also finally had to start getting into the game. We'll actually talk the opening weekend from what we saw with the big games in college football. We'll actually, I believe we're going to do a little bit of a recap of the opening night of the NFL season last night between the Bills and the Rams. We're going to talk a little bit of Deshaun Watson, naturally. We're going to possibly preview a very short preview of the Browns and Carolina Panthers opener, with Mike and I being predominantly loyalists up until recently with the Cleveland Browns. We might actually talk a little bit of Cavs. We're going to talk some baseball. So we're going to cover all bases, no pun intended. And also, we're definitely going to talk some baseball, especially with some big news that came out here within the course of the last couple of hours. That Mike and I are going to have some probably some more agreeing viewpoints than disagreeing. So you'll definitely want to tune in for that. Again, tomorrow night we're planning on either 8:30 or 9 p.m. On my channel. And again, on my Twitch channel, the links will be down below, and we hope to see you guys then. Take care, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night.